Hello, welcome. I'm happy that you are here. Today I want to talk about gurus. And specifically I want to talk about the one guru who came into my life and who changed my life. I mean, gurus are an interesting subject. The word guru is, at least for me, I don't know how it is for you, but for me, the word guru used to have a really bad connotation for a long time in my life. When I was growing up, that was in the 70s, when I was a 15-year-old boy or so, we heard stories and we were warned of certain sects and cults and gurus, that we need to be careful and that these people are luring the people away from the right path and betraying them. In short, the word guru meant something bad, something suspicious, something you have to watch out for. And I told you yesterday in my first video how I came to my spiritual master, Soham. And for me it is still amazing that this actually could happen, because I was not spiritual at all. Quite the contrary. I just told you, I grew up with in a climate in society where people were very suspicious and hostile against spiritual things which were not Catholic or Christian or anything like that. And that despite of this upbringing, that I became the disciple of a spiritual master, that is still an amazing fact for me. But he wasn't a guru. He is not a guru. He's still alive. He's still in my life. When I met him, he was a totally normal person. He's an American from California, very relaxed guy, very normal, very ordinary. He dresses normal, he speaks normal. It was easy to accept him. When I met him, I could clearly feel that there's something special about him. And it was so good for me that he came into my life. But he wasn't a challenge for me in terms of my values or my views. He didn't trigger the guru image, so to speak. The satsangs he was giving back at that time, there was nothing holy or spiritual about them. He was ordinary. So it was quite easy for me to meet him and to let him into my life. And that happened without me ever wanting anything like this, I didn't think I need a master. I didn't think I need to do anything spiritual. It just happened by itself, despite my upbringing, despite my ignorance. And I never, ever thought about a guru. I never thought that I would meet a guru in my life, and that I didn't believe that there is something like a guru which is something good. I told you I was believing quite the opposite. Yeah, and so I was with my spiritual master, with Soham, for many, many, many years. I was working for him, I was traveling with him all the time. That was basically my life. And over the years, I picked up that which he embodied. I told you yesterday that these things can't be spoken and taught, but you just pick them up when you are long enough with a person like him. And I just became happy, content, ambitionless. I didn't have any ambitions anymore. I didn't miss anything in my life. I can say I was happy. I was content. I didn't long for anything anymore. I didn't have plans to reach anywhere. As far as I was concerned at that time, life could have continued like this forever, until I die. So I wasn't looking for anything. And yet, to my big surprise, there came a time, this is now 6 years ago. At that time, I had been with Soham for 17 years. And as I just said, I was happy. I was totally content, resting in myself. I was at peace. I didn't think that there's anything else to achieve for a human being, also spiritually. So I wasn't looking for anything, and the last thing I was looking for was a guru. So 6 years ago, I began to feel something really unexpected. I began to feel like I'm stuck. Like I'm in a dead-end street. I got the feeling that I got the feeling that there is something else, and I had no idea what that is. I was kind of confused, because on the one hand I was content, I was happy, I didn't look for anything, and yet, despite of this, I had the growing feeling that I'm in a dead-end street. There is something else. I need to find another way. This was very confusing for me. And one day I had a conversation about this with Soham. I talked to him and I told him about how I feel. And to my surprise, he said, it's the same for me. He shared with me that since a while, he had basically the same feeling. As if that what he was doing there was losing its energy, was coming to an end. And he was, for him it was the same. He was happy. He didn't look for anything. And that was a relief for me to hear that my master felt the same, that I'm not stupid, that I'm not wrong. Because I had felt wrong about this, Here I am with a totally blessed life, with a unique life, and it's like, I think this is not enough, But he didn't know what that meant, and I didn't know what that meant. Now, looking at it in retrospect, it's like we both felt something coming. Although we had no idea what was coming. We had no clue. We didn't know that there's anything else. We didn't know that there's more to life and to existence than that what we were living and that which we knew. And then a few months later, it wasn't long, 2 months later, I was sitting with Soham and he said, Michael, I have to tell you something. I got approached by a disciple of an Indian guru. The name of the guru is Shiv Krupanand Swami, and we all call him Swamiji. And And Soham said, I got approached by a disciple of this guru, and I received an invitation for a retreat in India. He invited me to come and join the retreat. And this disciple gave me books which were written by this guru. And something happened with me during this conversation. Soham just shared with me. It was outwardly, it was a totally simple, normal conversation. But when Soham started talking about this guru, something happened with me. I was touched to the core. I felt an energy flowing through me which I never felt before. I started crying. I closed my eyes and I just cried. Like men cry, very quietly, and just a few tears, but inside it was an amazingly intense feeling. And the feeling was, oh my God, this is what I was waiting for all my life. And as I said before, I wasn't waiting for anything. I was as content as a person, a man, a human being can be, I thought. Yet there I was, and I felt, this is what I was waiting for. And I didn't even know what this is I was referring to. I got touched by something which I didn't know. All I knew was, this is good. This is it. And I had a funny feeling. It was like, on the one hand, I felt I was waiting for this all my life. And yet I had this clear feeling, wow, now my life begins. It is really as if in that moment, the old life ended and a new life began. This sounds really strange, but I just try to tell you how I felt. Outwardly, worldly, nothing changed in my life. I kept being Soham's disciple. I kept doing my work for him. I kept traveling with him. Nothing changed. My relationship didn't change. Nothing changed. From the outside. Inside, everything was different. I still remember this. I still remember this day. I still remember the hours after this conversation. How I took a walk that night over the fields and through the forest and welcoming this new energy. And I didn't even know what had happened because Soham didn't do anything with me. He just shared something with me. He shared something about what he experienced. He didn't even tell me that he had a great experience when he heard about this guru. I mean, he did have this experience, I'm sure. But that was not the part of the conversation. He was just, just like men talk with each other, very sober, very matter of fact. He said, I got approached by this disciple and he told me what he heard about this guru and about these books and about this invitation he received for the retreat. And he told me that he felt an immediate yes for this and that he will go there and participate. But he didn't share with me, like, Michael, I had this amazing experience and this energy flow. No, nothing like this. So I was totally unexpected what I experienced. It just happened, and I didn't know where this was coming from. It was coming from the inside. And it was like I was touched by something through this sharing with Soham, which had nothing to do with Soham. Yeah, so my life didn't change in a way, but Soham's satsangs changed from one day to the next. The satsangs he gave were different. He couldn't do the satsangs the way he did them before. What he then did was he just talked about this guru. He just began to talk about this guru. He couldn't do anything else. Because, and I realized this then, his life had changed just the same way like my life had changed in that very moment. He started reading the books of Swamiji in satsang. Yeah, he shared with me a few days later. He said, Michael, he said, I feel like John the Baptist. John the Baptist was a master, a spiritual master, in his time a very famous spiritual master. He had disciples, and he was living at the shore of the river Jordan, and he was baptizing people with the water of this river. He was baptizing them with his energy, with the Holy Spirit. But then there was one day where a man came, Jesus. And when John the Baptist met Jesus, he changed. In an instant, he became a disciple of Jesus. And he said to his own disciples, don't follow me, follow him. I'm not even worthy to touch his feet. And Soham said, this is how I feel. Soham had thousands of people following him. He was and is such a good master. The best. And yet, he got touched by this guru, by Swamiji. Not even physically, just he heard from him. And in an instant, he turned into a disciple. And whoever from his own disciples wanted, brought them with him to Swamiji. So what happens there? It's an interesting dilemma because, as I shared with you in my video yesterday, these are things which cannot really be expressed in words in any way which you can understand. Because what I mean with my words are this meaning is based on my own experience, but if you don't have the same experience, these words mean something different to you. So I cannot relate this to you. But this is also not needed. I told you in such great detail about what happened to me because it happened not through words, not through information. I got touched and changed, not by anything Soham had done in that conversation. It was the same 23 years ago when I was in the first satsang with Soham. I shared with you yesterday, I was sitting there and I suddenly felt something I have never felt before. This rightness, this yes. And this was also something Soham hadn't done. It wasn't like he looked at me deeply into my eyes and something happened with me, or that he told me something really profound and I understood something. Nothing like this. There were just ordinary conversations happening between him and his disciples, and I was sitting there and something touched me. It came through him, but it was not his doing. And the same happened with me when I heard from Swamiji. And maybe something in the same way, of the same quality, maybe not this magnitude, maybe not this, I'm not a master, I'm not a guru, I'm a disciple. But if you feel what I'm talking about, if it touches you unexpectedly somewhere inside, then you will know what I mean. Yeah. And that's how it works with a guru. It's not that a guru does something. It's not that he tells you the important things over and over again and until you finally understand. It's not like this at all. And you don't even have to be with the guru physically. You don't even have to sit in front of him. It's enough to. It's enough to hear about him. For some people, it's enough to just see the picture. It's an energy thing. It sounds weird, but when you experience it, it is as real and tangible and trustworthy as the things you experience in your physical, worldly life every day. You know, I was always, and still am, a very grounded person in terms of what I believe. I only believe what I experience myself. I don't believe anything else. Sometimes I hear things which sound very interesting, which sound very right, but I have to try them out. I have to find out by myself. That's the only thing I trust. And it has always been like this for me. And I would have never ended up with a spiritual master. I mean, I'm a normal person. I'm a computer guy. I'm just a normal guy. I would have never thought I'd end up with a spiritual master. And yet, when I was there for the first time, I experienced something. And this experience, my own experience, nobody did this. It just happened inside. I knew this I can trust. And it happens like this with the guru. You get touched and you don't even know how this is possible. But you know, wow, yes. Suddenly you're open. What I'm trying to do is talk about this so you realize that this is something normal. It sounds really weird and esoteric, but actually it's a totally normal phenomenon which is part of human life. It's what's supposed to happen. It's not something strange. No, it's strange when it doesn't happen. But we in the West, we have a very, very hard time with these things because the culture we grow up in, the Christian culture or the Jewish culture, we have this image that once upon a time there was a man, Jesus, and he was the Son of God, and he was the only Son of God. And that's it. So anybody else who comes along and says similar things must be a fraud. This is how we think, this is what we believe, and that's what, of course, the church or the Jewish people foster this belief. Yeah. The Jews could not hear Jesus. Yeah. And the Christian cannot hear a guru, even if he's right in front of him. And much of this is based on a lot of misunderstanding. We have such a hard time in the West with this. And, we read in the Bible Jesus' words. Jesus said, "Nobody comes to the Father but through me." And at another point he says, "I am the way." And we believe this means he, Jesus, this man, the son of Joseph and Maria, the only begotten Son of God, he is the way. And if not through him, we cannot come to God. We cannot find heaven. This is at least what I believe. This is the image I grew up with. Of course, Jesus didn't say this. He didn't mean this. He was talking about something totally different. What he was talking about is this. You are a human being. And you believe. You think you know who you are. You were born at a certain time. This is your body. You have a name, hands, feet, feelings, emotions. You have wishes and worries. This is you. This is your life. That's what you believe. And then there's somebody like Jesus, and he comes along and says, You're not this. All of these things you deem important, they're totally unimportant. There's something else. But you don't know this. You have no clue about this. Like me. That's why I share this in such great detail with you. I was with Soham, and I was happy. I was just having a good life. I didn't know that there's anything else. But one touch by a Jesus, like Swamiji, and it's like, wow, oh wow. One touch and your perspective changes and you begin to realize what I believed, what I am, what I believed to be important, to be the world, the reality, that's not it. But a moment before, I didn't know anything about this. And nobody could have told me about it. I would have just said, thank you, goodbye. But then somebody like Jesus touched me. For me, Swamiji is somebody like Jesus, alive today. And in that instant, it just happened for me. And this is what Jesus was talking about when he said, nobody comes to the Father but through me. He says, you live in what you think is the world. You live and you think you are this body, you are this life, this role, you are a man or a woman or a child. And you have no way to realize who you truly are. Only through my touch. Only when I touch you, suddenly you will know. That's what he meant. He didn't mean me as this body, this Jesus, son of Joseph. He said, everything Jesus was ever saying was a description of the inner happenings in a human being. So to speak, very early psychology. He said, for a human being to realize his true identity, somebody like me, who already rests in God, is needed. And when such a somebody, such a medium of God enters your life, everything is easy. Everything happens by itself. And before that, it's impossible. But of course, we humans, we misunderstand. We take it, we project Jesus' words into the world. We think it's him. We need to wait until this Jesus of Nazareth, has to come back and do something, and then something will happen to us. We don't know what that could be, but that's what we hear in church and in school and at home. It's not like this. Basically, Jesus tells you, live your life as good as you can. And there will be a day where a Jesus, somebody like me, will come. And you will know it. And then it happens. And this is a guru. This is what a guru is all about. By meeting the guru, you suddenly realize that which you cannot imagine before. I'm not this. I'm something else. Swamiji puts it this way. He said, you are not this body, you are a soul. That what Swamiji talks about, he calls the soul. He says, you're not a body which has a soul. No, you are a soul. And temporarily you are in this body, you are just inhabiting right now. But this body was born. And this body will die. But you, as this soul, you are a soul. You existed before this body was, and you will exist when this body is long dead. And this is the only role of a guru, to make you realize this and to show you how you can start living as a soul. This what touches you when somebody like Jesus or somebody like Swamiji enters your life, that's what Jesus called the Holy Spirit. It's just different words. But when I hear them with a Christian word, I'm immediately feeling an openness to it. And that's why I love talking about Jesus, because for this we are open. We just got it told all upside down, yeah. And he said, basically he said, that's what you are, Holy Spirit. And that's the only job of a guru, is to introduce you to this and to show you how you can foster this. You know, the only challenge we humans have is that from birth on, it's like from birth on we look outside. We look at the things we can see, we can hear, we can smell, we can touch. This is all connected to the body. And Swamiji says, this is also true for thoughts and feelings. These are all part of the body. That what you truly are, the soul, the Holy Spirit, has no thoughts and has no emotions. Awareness, yes. Experience, yes. But from birth on, even before we were born, even in the womb, all of our senses are facing outward. We have no training and no knowledge about turning inwards. And with turning inwards, I don't mean towards the feelings or the thoughts. No, there is an inward we don't know about. We have no reference point. We couldn't do anything with this because this is not part of our dimension. And so we live like this for years and years and years. And then somebody like Jesus comes and touches us, and we in an instant understand. But we still are human beings. We are still idiots. We got a taste of heaven. We got a taste of our true being, the soul, the Holy Spirit. But we are still in this body. We still are totally identified with everything. And then the Guru shows you how you slowly can change this. It's very, very easy. And the way to do this is something Swamiji calls meditation. Jesus called it prayer. And now you will say, meditation. Yeah, this I know, I already do this. Or you will say, prayer. Yeah, I am praying since my childhood. But I'm not talking about the meditation you have in mind. And I'm not talking about the prayer you have in mind. I tried to explain to you yesterday that it's really difficult to use these words because you have to use words everybody knows, but you mean something totally different with these words. So Swamiji brings the so-called Samarpan meditation. And I will talk about this meditation a lot. Not in this video, it's already way too long. But it's a way to grow this awareness of your true identity. It grows your awareness of that what you really are, a soul. It's totally simple. It's totally easy. It just takes a little bit of time. And Jesus talked about the same thing. He called it prayer. With prayer, he didn't mean sitting down and saying something. When he was praying, he withdrew and he became very quiet and went inside. But he had no way to describe this to his disciples. His disciples were very, very simple people. And even today, when I would describe it, nobody would understand it. You have to experience it yourself, and then you know. Yeah, that's what a guru does. That's what Jesus did. He makes people experience, just by being in his proximity, experience that, what he carries inside, the unspeakable. And then he shows them how to live like this. And that's what I want to talk about in my videos, over and over again. Because it's so simple and so ordinary. It's nothing, it's not magic. It's a normal part of life, actually. We just don't know anything about it. And you know what? Once you got a glimpse of this, everything else becomes unimportant. That's what happened to the disciples of Jesus. As I just said, and you know it, these were very simple people. Fishermen, carpenters, farmers. They had no clue about inner world, or even a word like thought didn't exist at that time. People were thinking, but the concept of thought didn't exist. They were very simple people. But then, by being with Jesus, they got touched by what they called the Holy Spirit. This opening to their real identity. And from that point on, they could do nothing else but go and share this. They started spreading the word into the world about what is possible. Of course, they were simple people. They misunderstood Jesus left and right. They had no clue what Jesus was talking about. But it didn't matter. They had to share anyway. And the interesting thing is that the energy got transmitted. So much misunderstandings are written in the Bible, and yet the energy, you can feel it when you read it. And that's what I'm trying to do too. I'm just as ordinary as the disciples of Jesus. I'm just as stupid as them, and I'm sure I have just as many misunderstandings as they had. And yet, there's nothing I want to do other than just trying to share a little bit about me and what I experienced and about what's possible and how easy it is, how natural, how normal, how, in a way, unspiritual, unspectacular. And I know these words don't mean anything, but maybe you feel what I'm talking about. And when you feel this, I'm happy. Yeah, so that's what I'm doing. That's why I start this project. I'm much more stupid than Jesus' disciples. I got touched by Swamiji 5.5 years ago. 2.5 years ago, I got this clear inclination. Share it. Make videos. And I felt such a energy about this. And I said, yes, I will do this. But, I couldn't imagine this. Me talking about this? I mean, I know myself. I'm really ordinary. I'm really stupid. So it took me another 2.5 years to get ready. But in these 2.5 years, I realized I don't want to do anything else. That's what I really want to do. In a way, I will just do it even if nobody listens to me, because there's just nothing else left to do in this life. Maybe this sounds a little bit crazy to you, but maybe you understand. Yeah. So that's why I start making these videos. And if you watch one of them once in a while, I'm totally happy and delighted. And I will often talk about this meditation, but I will even more often talk about Jesus, because now where I am now I understand all of the words I've ever heard from him in their real meaning, because I experienced it myself. Now I know what he was talking about. But the disciples didn't know. Yeah, so I think it's enough for today. When I start, I just don't find any end. I'm really, really sorry. But if you made it up to this point in the video, I'm very happy and very proud of you. Thank you for being here.